The Fertile Crescent, Section 1, Land Between Two Rivers. Land between two rivers. Sumer was located in a region called Mesopotamia. This region had fertile soil and life-giving rivers, which drew traders and farmers. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers were the source of life-bringing tons of topsoil from the mountains to the land. Farmers grew crops, the rivers supplied fish, tall reeds were used for boat building, and clay for building shelter. Here's a slide showing you a clay tablet. That's an original clay tablet. A picture of a palace that one of the kings built. A picture of Sumer, a drawing of the city, the way archaeologists predetermined it would look like. And then a model of a Sumerian temple. All of this found from the archaeologists digging through the land and finding pieces of a civilization. The first cities. By 3500 BC, Mesopotamia had many growing cities in the region of Sumer. These cities grew along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, far apart from each other. It made it difficult for these cities to unite under one government. Each city developed into a city-state, which means a state with its own special god or goddess, its own government, and eventually its own king. Sumerian city-states fought with each other over land and water and fell out of power. What was life like in Mesopotamia? Well, the very first school ever was formed in Sumer. At the school, students, mostly boys, only a few girls, learned how to write. These professional writers were called scribes. Learning to be a scribe was hard work. Boys normally began school at the age of 8 and didn't finish until they were 20. Scribes were important people in Sumer because they were the only people who could keep records for the kings and priests. This is when history began. Remember, history began when man started to write it down. Now the religion, Sumerian religion. The Sumerian temple was called the ziggurat. Sumerians believed that the gods would come to earth using the stairs as a ladder. Polytheism was the belief in many gods. There were many myths of stories that explained Sumerian beliefs. People would give gifts to stay in good favor with the gods. Now, here are the key ideas to remember. What was needed to develop the first cities? You had to have fertile soil and a river, which was necessary for cities to grow. It was the river that brought both water and fertile soil to the land, and remember, this is what produced a food surplus. How did religion develop? First with stories, which were called myths. They were developed about many of the gods. People believed in many gods, and that is called polytheism. In other words, polytheism is the belief in many gods. Why did the city-states fight with each other? Because many cities grew along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, far apart from each other. They grew to have separate cultures and governments that fought with each other over water and land, which is natural resources. Because they lived, in other words, so far apart, there were wars and conflicts over the land and the water. Why did the age of history begin? The first school was built in Sumer. Students went to school to learn how to scribe or write things down. Once this happened, we entered the era of history, when people started to keep written records of what is happening.